A single word, whispered by a child, was all it took to shatter 6 years of silence. Daddy. The sound was a ghost, a memory I thought I had buried beneath layers of grime and shame. My head, which had learned to stay perpetually bowed, snapped up. There, standing just a few feet away, was a little girl wrapped in a pink coat, snowflakes clinging to her like tiny stars. Her hair was the color of polished jet, pulled into two perfect pigtails, her cheeks flushed with a vibrant rose of winter. But it wasn't the coat or the hair that made the air leave my lungs in a painful rush. It was her eyes. Dark, almond-shaped, and filled with a warmth I hadn't felt in an eternity. They were the same eyes I had once gazed into every night, the same eyes I had kissed closed before whispering goodnight. Worry. My voice was a fragile thing, a shard of glass trembling on the edge of breaking. She tilted her head, her expression one of pure, undiluted recognition. Daddy. Before the world could restart, before I could bridge the chasm of years that separated us, another voice sliced through the numbing roar of the city. Worry. My blood turned to ice. From the throng of anonymous faces, a figure emerged, his presence so immense it seemed to bend the very air around him. Wan Li. 6 years had done nothing to diminish him. They had only honed his devastating perfection. His suit was a testament to impossible wealth, clinging to his broad shoulders without a single crease. His hair was a flawless sweep of black, and his gaze was as cold and remote as a distant star. But then, that gaze found me. For the first time in 2,190 days, our eyes locked, and the fragile world I had built from my own ruin crumbled into dust. To understand the cataclysm of that moment, you have to understand the silence of the morning it all ended. I used to cling to the naive belief that love was an unbreakable force, that two hearts, if held together with enough conviction, could withstand any storm the world threw at them. I was a fool. I can still recall the final morning I spent within the walls of that mansion, a palace of glass and stone that had never truly felt like home. The winter sun was a pale, anemic ghost in the sky, casting a weak, soulless light across the room. The air held the sterile, expensive scent of cold marble and the faint, lingering aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a fragrance that screamed of a life I was about to lose. I sat on the precipice of a king-sized bed, my fingers fumbling with the buttons of my threadbare shirt, a tremor running through me that had nothing to do with the cold. I was trying to breathe without thinking, a task that was proving impossible. Wan Li was already a portrait of perfection. His suit was immaculately pressed, his dark hair slicked back with the effortless precision of the alpha he was born to be. He stood before a floor-to-ceiling mirror, adjusting his platinum cufflinks, his profile a study in sharp angles and severe beauty. He was so breathtakingly, cruelly handsome that looking at him was a physical pain, a sharp ache deep within my chest. Warrior Eurostrade's bag is packed, he stated, his voice devoid of any emotion, his eyes fixed on his own reflection. She's excited about the trip. My heart clenched, a painful, violent spasm. I'll miss her. He finally deigned to look at me, his gaze meeting mine in the mirror's reflection. For a fleeting, intoxicating second, a flicker of something softer, something vulnerable, danced in the depths of his dark eyes. And then, just as quickly, it was extinguished. You'll survive a week without her, Wu Bim. The words were clipped, dismissive. I swallowed against the lump forming in my throat. It isn't a Eurostrade tea about surviving. The words came out as a broken whisper, more fragile than I intended. She Eurostrade my daughter, too. At that, Wan Li turned. He crossed the vast expanse of the room with a fluid, predatory grace that always made the solid ground beneath my feet feel like quicksand. He stopped directly in front of me, his fingers gently tilting my chin upwards, forcing me to meet his gaze. His touch was a spark of warmth against my frigid skin, and my body, the ultimate traitor, instinctively leaned into his hold. "You'll see her when I get back," he promised. But there was a finality in his tone, a leaden weight behind the words that sent a coil of dread tightening in my gut. I tried to dismiss it, to tell myself it was just my own insecurity. That was the last time I saw them together. The last time I saw the life that was supposed to be mine. The silence began with the phone calls. The first unanswered ring was an annoyance. The 10th was a worry. The 100th was a confirmation of a terrifying truth. The line would ring, an endless, hopeful sound, only to be swallowed by the void of an unanswered call. Then his family descended upon me. Wan Li Eurostrade's mother, her voice as sharp and brittle as shattered glass, her eyes filled with a disgust so profound it felt like a physical blow. "You are nothing, Wu Bim," she spat, her words dripping with venom. "You were nothing before he picked you up from the gutter, and you are nothing now." His father was a silent, imposing figure of judgment. He didn't need to speak, he simply gave a curt nod to the guards flanking him. They grabbed me, their hands like iron vices on my arms, and dragged me from the mansion. My body met the snow-covered driveway with a sickening thud. The sharp pain in my knees was nothing compared to the sound of my heart shattering into a million irreparable pieces. That was 6 years ago. In the time since, the city streets became my world. The acrid smell of gasoline and the greasy perfume of street food replaced the scent of luxury. The biting wind of winter became my constant companion, a cruel lover against my skin. The world became a symphony of footsteps, a relentless river of humanity that flowed around me but never once stopped for me. People stared. They laughed. Sometimes they would toss a few coins into my cup, their pity as insulting as their scorn. Other times, they threw curses. I learned the art of invisibility. I learned to bow my head, to make myself small, to swallow what little pride I had left until there was nothing but a hollow ache where it used to be. My hands, which had once been soft and cared for, became calloused and permanently stained with the city's grime. My lips were a cracked and bleeding testament to the relentless cold. My soul was a barren wasteland. I was no longer Wu Bim, Wan Li Eurostrade's partner. I was no longer Wu Bim, Warrior Eurostrade's father. I was just Wu Bim, the beggar, the ghost that haunted the corner of Myeongdong Station, a living monument to shame. On that fateful day, the hunger was a gnawing beast in my stomach. I was huddled against the cold stone wall of the station, watching the endless parade of people blur into a meaningless stream of color and motion. A little boy, his face a mask of innocent curiosity, dropped a coin into my paper cup. His mother snatched his hand, pulling him away with a sharp tug, her expression one of utter revulsion, as if my poverty were a contagious disease. "Thank you," I rasped, my voice a dry, unused thing. And Thartar Eurostrade's when I heard it. "Daddy." It was the sound that resurrected me. The little girl with the pink coat and the dark, familiar eyes. Worry, my worry. Her small arms wrapped around my neck, and her warmth was a shock, a jolt of life seeping into my frozen, half-dead bones. Tears, hot and unstoppable, streamed down my face. "My baby," I sobbed, clutching her to my chest as if she were the only anchor in a raging sea. "My little girl." Her tiny hands, so soft and warm, patted my tear-streaked face. "Why are you crying, Daddy?" I was crying because I had lost everything. I was crying because for 6 agonizing years, I believed I would never see her again. I was crying because she was, and always had been, the only thing in the universe that had ever truly mattered. Wen Li's voice, when it finally came, was thick with a storm of unreadable emotions. "Wu Bim." I looked up, my vision blurred by a fresh wave of tears. "Get your hands off her." The world around us had come to a standstill. The whispers of the crowd were a low hum, their curious eyes fixed on the bizarre tableau we presented to the pristine Alpha, the filthy beggar, and the child caught between them. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. My arms tightened around Worry, a primal protective instinct overriding everything else. "No," I whispered, my voice raw with 6 years of unshed grief and newfound defiance. "Not this time." The command in Wan Li's voice was a physical force, a reminder that 6 years of destitution had not erased the power he held over me. My body remembered him on a cellular level, a deep, instinctual memory of pain and pleasure that my conscious mind had tried so desperately to forget. "Get your hands off her," he repeated, his tone colder this time, each word a shard of ice. But the small arms around my neck only tightened their grip. "No." Warrior Euro's Drade's shout was surprisingly fierce, her little voice trembling with a stubbornness that was so achingly familiar. "This is Daddy." "I know it is." The murmuring of the crowd grew louder, a wave of speculation and judgment washing over me. A hot flush of shame burned my cheeks, but it was quickly replaced by the unbearable agony of being seen like this. Filthy, broken, a beggar clutching at the daughter of a king. Next to Wan Li, in his flawless suit that probably cost more than I had seen in my entire life, I was less than a shadow of the man I used to be. I fought to keep my voice from trembling. "Wan Li," I pleaded, my eyes begging him for a mercy he had never shown me before. "Let me, Euros, just let me hold her for a little longer, please." For a breathtaking, heart-stopping moment, his mask slipped. I saw Eater Euros, a flicker of the man I once knew, the Alpha who would curl his body around mine in the dead of night. His whispers of love and forever a warm breath against my skin. But then his jaw hardened, the mask of cold indifference sliding back into place. "Wu Bim," he said, his voice low and dangerously deliberate. "You're making a scene." His words were a knife twisting in an open wound. A scene, as if my entire existence for the past 6 years hadn't been one long, humiliating spectacle. I looked down at Worry, my calloused fingers gently brushing a strand of silky black hair from her face. She was so much bigger now. The baby fat had melted from her cheeks, replaced by the delicate features of a young girl. I had missed it all. Her first lost tooth, her first day of school, 6 birthdays, countless moments of laughter and tears that I could never get back. "I missed you," I whispered, my lips trembling against the softness of her forehead. "I missed you too, Daddy," she replied, her voice muffled against my chest, her arms squeezing me with an intensity that suggested she feared I would dematerialize. That simple, innocent statement shattered the last of my composure. Wan Li took a step forward, his hand outstretched. "Worry, come here." She shook her head, a violent, defiant motion. "No, I want Daddy." A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers. I could see the battle raging within Wan Li Euros, the fury in his eyes, the rigid tension in his shoulders, the war between his Alpha pride and his love for his daughter. "Please," I whispered, finally meeting his gaze, pouring every ounce of my broken soul into that single word. "Don't take her from me again." A taut silence stretched between us, thick with the weight of unspoken history. His eyes locked with mine, and in their depths I saw a maelstrom of emotions, of guilt, regret, and something that looked terrifyingly like longing. And then he broke the connection. He tore Worry from my arms. Her cry was a physical blow, a sound that echoed the scream trapped in my own throat. "Daddy!" The warmth vanished from my world, leaving me cold and terrifyingly empty. My legs gave out, and I stumbled backward, the same agonizing pain that had been my constant companion for 6 years erupting in my chest, sharper and more vicious than ever before. Wen Li held her close, his body a shield between his daughter and the contamination of my presence. "Enough," he ground out, his voice tight and strained. I wanted to scream, to rage, to collapse into a heap and let the city swallow me whole. Instead, a single, defiant whisper escaped my lips. "You can't erase me from her heart." He froze, his back stiffening at my words. But he didn't turn around. He simply walked away, carrying our daughter with him, the crowd parting before him as if he were a god among mortals. And I was left standing there, broken all over again. That night, sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. The city was a cacophony of sirens and shouting, and the cold was a physical entity sinking its teeth into my bones. But all I could feel was the ghost of Warrior Eurostrade's arms around my neck, the echo of her voice. She remembered me. Without a single moment of hesitation, she had known me. That single, beautiful thought was the only thing that kept me from succumbing to the abyss. 2 days later, my desperate hope led me to Gangnam, the glittering heart of Seoul's wealth. I was hoping for more generous souls, a few extra coins to quiet the gnawing hunger. And then I saw it, a flash of pink. Worry's coat. Her small hand was tucked securely in Wan Li's. I froze, my heart starting a frantic, painful rhythm against my ribs. I shouldn't Eurostrade follow them. It was a form of self-torture. But my feet, possessed by a will of their own, carried me forward. They disappeared into a chic cafe tilde copyright, warm, golden light spilling from its large glass windows. I hovered outside, a pathetic ghost in the cold, staring in at the life that should have been mine. Worry was laughing, her smile so bright it could have outshone the sun. Wen Li sat across from her, the usual severe lines of his face softened into something resembling contentment. The sight was a physical pain, a crushing weight on my chest. Suddenly, Worry looked up. Her eyes met mine through the glass. They widened in recognition. Her lips formed my name. "Daddy." She pressed her little hand against the cold window pane, a desperate, silent plea. When Eurostrade's head turned, his gaze following hers until it landed on me. The warmth vanished from his expression, replaced by a thunderous darkness. Panic seized me. I turned to flee, to disappear back into the shadows where I belonged. But the cafe tilde copyright door swung open behind me. "Wu Bim." His voice was a whip crack in the cold air. I froze mid-step. When I slowly turned back, he was there, towering over me, his presence suffocating. He was still the Alpha whose scent had once been my sanctuary, an intoxicating blend of power and safety. Now it only burned. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice a low growl. A bitter, broken laugh escaped my lips. "Where should I be, then, Wan Li?" "In the gutter where your parents left me to rot." His eyes flickered with an unreadable emotion before his mask of indifference slammed back down. "You don't understand." "No, you're the one who doesn't understand." My voice rose. years of suppressed rage and grief finally boiling over. You took her from me. You abandoned me with nothing. I begged for you, Wan Li. I begged for news of her, for any sign that you still cared. And you are Euros, you vanished. He flinched. It was a minuscule, almost imperceptible reaction, but I saw it. Do you think I wanted any of this? He finally bit out, his voice strained, raw. Do you think I didn't fight for you? The words twisted my heart into a painful knot. Then why? I choked out. Why didn't you ever come back? His jaw tightened, a muscle flexing in his cheek. He stepped closer, closing the distance between us until his warm breath coasted across my face. His scent enveloped me, a maddening, familiar cloud that sent my treacherous body into a state of trembling arousal. His eyes darkened, his pupils dilating. Because if I had, he rasped, the words torn from his very soul, you would be dead. I blinked, the words not registering. What? But before I could form a question, his mouth crashed down on mine. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a raw, desperate collision, an explosion of 6 years of silence, longing, and suffocating pain. It was a kiss of anger and ownership, his mouth claiming mine with a bruising force. His tongue thrust past my lips, and my knees threatened to buckle. I hated him. I loved him. I wanted to shove him away, to claw at his perfect face. And I wanted to melt into him, to drown in the familiar taste of him until I forgot my own name. My fists beat weakly against his chest before my traitorous fingers curled into the expensive fabric of his suit, pulling him impossibly closer. My tears mingled with the desperate heat of his mouth. When he finally broke away, we were both gasping for air, our foreheads pressed together. I never stopped loving you, Wu Bim, he whispered, his voice cracking with a confession. But you don't know the truth. I stared at him, my entire body trembling. Then tell me, I begged. Tell me everything. He pulled back, the cool, collected Alvar slipping back into place like a shroud. Not here, he said, his voice regaining its composure. Not yet. And then he turned and walked back into the warmth of the Café Tilder Copyright, leaving me alone on the cold pavement, burning with 1,000 unanswered questions and a kiss that had resurrected a love I thought was long dead. Sleep was a forgotten country. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the phantom pressure of his lips on Mynheer Euro's rough, demanding, full of a desperate hunger that mirrored my own. I hated myself for the way my body had responded, for the way it had betrayed 6 years of bitterness in a single, searing moment. And yet, in the most secret, honest corner of my heart, I knew the truth. It had never stopped beating for Wan Li. The next morning, I returned to my usual spot at the station, my body aching from a cold that seemed to have sunk deep into my bones. Daddy. The voice was a melody, a sweet, impossible sound in the harsh symphony of the city. I turned, and there she was, running toward me, her pink coat a brilliant splash of color against the gray backdrop. She had broken free from Mynheer Euro's trade-s grasp. My heart leaped into my throat as she launched herself into my arms. I clutched her tight, burying my face in the clean, sweet scent of her hair. My little girl, I whispered, her giggles melting the icy core of my bitterness. I told Papa Wan Li I wanted to see you again, she chirped, her voice full of childish pride. My chest constricted. And what did he say? She pouted, her lower lip pushing out adorably. He said you were busy. But I know that's not true. He lies a lot. A sound that was half laugh, half sob escaped my throat. But then, the sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps approached. The air grew thick, charged with an unmistakable presence. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Wen Li, his rich, commanding alpha scent rolled over me a second before his voice did. Worry. His tone was clipped sharp. Come here. She clung to me, her little body tense. No, I want Daddy. Wen Li Euro's Drade's eyes bored into mine. A silent, intense communication passing between us. His jaw was a hard line. Wu Bim, he said, his voice low and firm. We need to talk. We ended up in a place I never thought I'd see the inside of again. A room. A small, dimly lit motel room on the outskirts of the city, the kind of anonymous place people go when they don't want to be found. Wen Li had practically dragged me here, Worry having fallen asleep in his car under the watchful eye of his driver. The silence in the room was a living thing, heavy and suffocating. I paced the threadbare carpet, my hands trembling uncontrollably. What is this, Wen Li? What game are you playing? My voice cracked. Why now? Why show up after 6 years and euros and kiss me like that? He stood by the grimy window, a tall, dark silhouette against the fading light. He still looked like the powerful CEO, but the impenetrable mask was gone, and his eyes were filled with a profound weariness. I already told you, he said, his voice quiet. If I had stayed, you would be dead. My stomach twisted into a painful knot. What in the hell is that supposed to mean? His hand, resting on the windowsill, curled into a tight fist. My family, he said, the words sounding like they were being ripped from his throat. They threatened you, Wu Bim. It wasn't just about cutting you off, about making you poor. It was about ending you. They made it terrifyingly clear. You were an omega with no connections, no wealth. In their eyes, you were disposable. If I didn't take Worry and disappear from your life completely, they would have you euros. They would have made sure you were buried where no one would ever find you. I froze, the blood draining from my face. My breath hitched in my chest. You're lying, I whispered, the denial a desperate, flimsy shield. If you cared, you would have fought. You would have found a way. I did fight, he snapped, his control finally shattering. His eyes blazed with a raw, agonizing pain that mirrored my own. Do you think I wanted to leave you to rot on the streets? Do you think I haven't spent every single night of the last 6 years hating myself for it? But going against them then would have been your death sentence. They would have destroyed you and euros. His voice broke, thick with unshed tears. I couldn't risk losing you permanently. The room began to spin. My knees gave out and I sank onto the edge of the lumpy bed, my face buried in my hands. 6 years of bitterness, of anger, of a deep, soul-crushing hatred euros. It all collided with this devastating truth. Suddenly, the narrative I had built my survival on was a lie. Wen Li moved toward me, his movements slow, cautious, as if approaching a wounded animal. He knelt before me, his hands gently prying mine away from my face. Wu Bim, he whispered, his own eyes glistening with tears. Look at me. I did, and in his gaze, I saw the truth of his words. I never stopped loving you. Something inside me, a wall of ice I had built around my heart, cracked and then shattered. Sobs tore from my chest, hot and violent. My body, acting on a will of its own, leaned forward, collapsing against him. His arms came around me instantly, crushing me to his chest with a desperation that stole my breath. It felt like coming home after a lifetime in exile. His scent, that intoxicating alpha presence, overwhelmed my senses. My body remembered what my mind had fought so hard to forget. And when his lips found mine again, all resistance crumbled. This kiss was different. It wasn't a battle. It was a surrender. It was years of starvation finally coming to an end. His mouth was warm and seeking, and my hands, those ultimate traitors, slid into his perfect hair, pulling him closer. A low, guttural groan rumbled in his chest, a sound that sent a jolt of pure fire through my veins. "Wen Li," I gasped between kisses, my voice shaky and raw. "Say it again," he begged, his lips trailing a path of fire down my jaw, along my throat. "Say my name." "Wen Li." His body pressed me back onto the mattress, his weight both heavy and grounding. My pulse thundered in my ears as his hands explored me, desperate and possessive, rediscovering territory they had never truly relinquished. The years apart had not diminished his hunger, they had honed it into a razor-sharp need. "I thought I lost you forever," he murmured against my skin, his voice thick with emotion. "But you're here. You're mine. You've always been mine." My heart screamed at me to fight, my pride begged me to push him away. But my body, my soul, my very omega essence betrayed me completely. His lips found mine once more, and this time, I let go of everything. I don't know how long it lasted, but when the storm finally passed, we were a tangled mess of limbs on the cheap motel bed. My head rested on his chest, his hand stroking my hair with a tenderness I thought I'd never feel again. I hated him. I loved him. And for the first time in 6 long, agonizing years, I felt completely, terrifyingly alive. But as the tendrils of sleep began to pull me under, a single, cold thought snaked its way into my mind. If his family had been willing to kill me then, what would they do now that he had come back for me? I woke to the sensation of warmth, a feeling so foreign it was jarring. For 6 years, my reality upon waking was the biting cold of concrete, the whisper of a thin, useless blanket, and the indifferent gaze of the sky. But now, my head was pillowed on a solid, rhythmically beating chest, my body cocooned in arms that held the muscle memory of belonging to me. For one dangerous, seductive moment, I allowed myself the fantasy that no time had passed at all. Wen Li's breath was a soft caress against the crown of my head. His heartbeat was the slow, steady drum I had once fallen asleep to every single night. For the first time in an eternity, I felt safe. And then reality, cold and sharp, crashed back in. My body tensed and I tried to pull away. The movement stirred him, and his arms tightened instinctively. "Don't," he murmured, his voice still thick and gravelly with sleep. "Not yet." A painful lump formed in my throat. "Wen Li, we can't." His eyes slowly opened, still hazy from sleep but sharp enough to pin me in place with their intensity. "We already did." A flush of heat spread across my face. My body was a tapestry of last night's desperation, the faint bruises from his kisses, the lingering scent of him clinging to my skin. My omega instincts were purring with a treacherous satisfaction, but my rational mind was screaming. "You don't understand," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "Your family are yours, my family doesn't matter." He cut me off, sitting up abruptly. His hand captured mine, his grip firm and unyielding. "You matter. Worry matters. That is all." I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to drown in the beautiful lie of his words. But then, a sharp, authoritative knock on the motel room door shattered the fragile peace. "Wen Li." The voice was unmistakably cold, precise, and dripping with disdain. It was his mother. I froze, my stomach plummeting into a cold, dark abyss. Wen Li's jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grind. He stood, pulling on his shirt, and in that moment, I saw the transformation. The raw, vulnerable man from the night before was buried, and the impenetrable Alvar mask slid back into place. "Stay here," he ordered, his voice soft but firm. But when he opened the door, it was too late. I saw her, Madame Han, as elegant and severe as ever, her hair swept into a flawless chignon, pearls gleaming at her ears. But her eyes, when they landed on me huddled in the bed, were daggers. "So it is true," she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper. "You've dragged this filth back into our lives." "Mother," Wan Li's voice was low, and "do not speak to him that way." Her gaze flickered back to me, her lip curling in disgust. "Still as pathetic as ever, still clinging to what you can't have. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough for one lifetime?" My hands began to tremble. My first instinct, honed by years of humiliation, was to shrink, to make myself invisible. But then an image of worry flashed in my Minder Euros, her bright, trusting eyes, the way she had called me daddy without a hint of doubt. Something inside me snapped. I stood, my legs shaking, but my resolve hardening. "I am Worry's father," I said, my voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the tension. "Nothing you say or do can ever change that." Her eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. "You are nothing." "No," I said, my voice gaining strength. My fists clenched at my sides. "I may have lost everything else, but I never stopped being her father, and no amount of your money or your power can ever erase that fact." I saw a flicker of pride in Wan Li's eyes before his mother's rage consumed the room. "You think this is love, Wan Li?" she sneered, turning her fury on him. "You think Thesa Euros, this beggar, can stand by your side, help raise your daughter, and not drag our family's name through the deepest pits of mud? If you choose him, you are choosing ruin." Wan Li Euro's trade's voice was as cold and hard as steel. "Then I choose ruin." My breath caught in my throat. His mother's face went pale, her elegant features contorting with a terrifying rage. "You ungrateful whelp!" She raised her hand to strike him, but Wan Li caught her wrist in midair, his grip like iron. His voice dropped to a dangerously low growl. "Touch him, and I will burn this family to the ground." The silence that followed was absolute, the weight of his threat hanging heavy and palpable in the stale motel air. Madame Han ripped her wrist from his grasp, her entire body trembling with impotent fury. "You will regret this," she seethed. And then she was gone, the slam of the door echoing her rage. I stood frozen, my heart pounding a painful, frantic rhythm against my ribs. Wan Li turned to me, the hardness in his eyes melting away, replaced by a searching concern. "Are you all right?" I shook my head, the tears I'd been holding back finally spilling over. Why would you say that to her? Why would you throw everything away?" He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his large, warm hands cupping my face. "Because I already lost you once, Wu Bim," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I will not survive losing you again." My lips trembled, my entire being ached to believe him. And when he kissed me, soft and reassuring this time, I let myself fall. Later that night, Worry crawled into the bed between us, her small body a warm, comforting presence. Her tiny hands reached out, clutching one of mine and one of Wan Li's. "I want Daddy and Papa to be together," she mumbled, her voice drowsy with sleep. Her innocent words pierced me deeper than any of her grandmother's insults. Beneath the blanket, Wan Li's hand found mine, his fingers intertwining with my own. His thumb brushed soothing circles against my skin, a silent, grounding promise. For the first time in 6 years, I allowed myself to hope. But hope is a fragile thing. and I knew with a chilling certainty that his family was far from finished with us. For a few precious days following Madame Han's dramatic exit, I lived in a bubble of precarious peace. I should have known better. Her parting words, "You will regret this," echoed in the back of my mind like a death knell. But it was impossible to hold onto that fear when I woke up to Warrior Eurostrade's small, warm body nestled between us. When Wan Li's hand would find mine in the dark, and when his lips would press a gentle kiss to my temple in the quiet, pre-dawn hours, I allowed myself to believe in the impossible Euros that we could truly be a family again. That fragile illusion was shattered a week later. I had slipped out to buy Worry a small cream-filled pastry from a nearby bakery, a treat I could barely afford, but her delighted smile was worth more than any currency. As I approached our motel room, a knot of dread tightened in my stomach. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open to a scene that stopped my heart. Wan Li stood in the center of the room, his body a rigid line of defiance. Facing him were three of his family's guards, men built like mountains in their sharp black suits. And standing behind them, exuding an aura of absolute, chilling power, was his father, Chairman Han. He was a man whose mere presence seemed to suck the very oxygen from the air. On the bed, Worry sat with her eyes wide with fear, clutching a small stuffed animal. "Papa," she whispered, her voice a tiny, frightened sound. Wan Li moved in an instant, positioning himself to shield her. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice sharp with authority. The chairman's cold, dismissive gaze flicked from his son to me as I stepped into the room. "So, it is true," he said, his voice a low, rumbling monotone. "You have dirtied yourself again with Thesa Euro's Omega trash." My fists clenched at my sides. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but my body was paralyzed by a primal fear. Wan Li's voice cut through the tense silence like a blade. "Say one more word against him, and you will live to regret it." The chairman didn't even flinch. "You think you possess the strength to defy me? Everything you are, everything you have ever owned, exists because of my generosity. Do you truly intend to cast it all aside for him?" "Yes," Wan Li answered, without a single shred of hesitation. The word hung in the air, a declaration of war. My heart stopped. The chairman's eyes narrowed, the only sign of his displeasure. "You disappoint me." He turned his icy gaze back to me. "You will leave now. Disappear. If you do, I may permit Wan Li to keep the child. If you stay, you will not only be destroyed, but you will drag him down into the ruin you so clearly belong in." The room tilted on its axis. My chest burned. It was the choice. The same impossible, soul-destroying choice that had shattered my life 6 years ago. I opened my mouth, the words of sacrifice already forming on my tongue. I would leave. I would disappear. I could not be the reason Wan Li lost everything. But before I could speak, a small, clear voice rang out. "No." We all froze. Worry scrambled off the bed, her tiny fists balled at her sides, her face a mask of fierce, childish rage. "Don't talk to my daddy like that," she yelled. She stomped her little foot, marching right up to the terrifying figure of her grandfather. "Daddy is mine. He loves me, and I love him. And if you take him away from me again, I will hate you forever." Tears blurred my vision, hot and overwhelming. My brave little girl, my perfect, courageous daughter. For the first time, I saw a crack in the chairman's glacial composure. He faltered, momentarily stunned by her defiance. In that instant, Wan Li's arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me tight against his side. His voice was steady, unwavering. "You heard her. Worry chooses us. And I choose him. Nothing you can say or do will ever change that. The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Finally, the chairman's lips thinned into a hard, unforgiving line. You will regret this. And with that, he turned and swept out of the room, his guards trailing in his wake like shadows. The moment the door clicked shut, my legs gave out. I collapsed against Wan Li's chest, a torrent of choked sobs tearing through me. I was going to leave, I confessed between gasps, the words tasting like poison. I was going to let you go. I can't euros, I can't be the reason you lose everything. His arms crushed me against him, his hold a desperate, grounding force. He pressed his lips to my hair. Don't you understand yet, Wu Bim? He murmured fiercely into my ear. You are everything. I shook my head, clinging to him. I'm nothing. I have nothing to give you. Then we will build it all again. He interrupted, his voice filled with a passion that ignited a spark of hope in my desolate soul. Together, I don't need their money. I don't need their approval. I need you. I need worry. That is all I have ever needed. His lips found mine then, desperate and hungry, pouring all the love and conviction he couldn't articulate into a single, all-consuming kiss. And this time, I didn't straight just surrender. I met his passion with my own. The kiss deepened, our bodies colliding with the force of years of pent-up longing. His scent enveloped me, claiming every part of me, and my omega instincts sang in joyful submission. Wan Li, I gasped, as his mouth trailed a searing path down my neck, his hands sliding beneath my shirt, his calloused thumbs a rough, delicious friction against my skin. You're mine, he growled, his voice shaking with the intensity of his emotions. You always were. You always will be. The heat between us was a supernova, consuming everything the past, the pain, the fear. The world outside our small motel room ceased to exist. There was only him. His touch, his taste, his all-encompassing love. When he finally claimed me, it was more than a physical act. It was a vow, a sacred promise, a reforging of a bond that no amount of time, cruelty, or distance could ever sever. And for the first time in 6 long, empty years, I felt whole. Later, as we lay tangled in the sheets, Worry crawled sleepily into bed, wedging herself between us as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It was. Her little hand found mine, then Wan Li's, and she clasped them together. Don't fight anymore, she mumbled into her pillow. Stay forever. Tears of pure, unadulterated joy slipped down my cheeks. I leaned over and kissed her forehead, then looked at Wan Li over her sleeping form. Forever, he whispered, his eyes shining with the same promise, before he leaned in and kissed me softly. I promise. And this time, I believed him. I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. His family would not surrender so easily, and the world would not simply open its arms to us. But we had each other. Wan Li, Worry, and me. We were a family. Not a perfect one, not an easy one, but a real one. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I dared to believe in forever. The story of Wu Bim and Wan Li has reached a new beginning, but their battle is far from over. With a powerful family sworn against them, their newfound happiness is a fragile, precious thing. What do you think will be the biggest challenge they face next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by their journey back to each other, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories that explore the enduring power of love. We'll see you in the next one.